Good afternoon and welcome to Word on Wearside.
Your regional news and current affairs programme. I'm Yolanda Branch.
And I'm Beth Smith. Now for your top headlines.
Sunderland reacts to missing out on the City of Culture bid.
Is university really worth all the debt? Only 1 in 3 students think so.
And an investigation as to whether or not fairy tales are giving off the wrong messages to kids.
Today people across Wearside are reflecting on the results of the City of Culture bid.
Despite more than a year of campaigning, Sunderland's lost to Coventry at the final hurdle to become the UK's City of Culture 2021. Other finalists included Swansea, Paisley and Stoke.
People gathered in locations all around Sunderland to hear the results being announced.
Despite losing, organisers hope that developments made as part of the bidding process will continue to make a difference in the city.
And the winner is Coventry.
Oh. Well done, Coventry. Well done, Coventry.
This is the moment Sunderland found out, despite years of hard work, that the city will not be culture capital for 2021.
There's a momentum in Sunderland.
Yep.
There's a great team of people, all of you included, will keep things going. So well done to Coventry. We should give them all the support they need, but Sunderland's going to keep on going, and there's some amazing things are happening already, and there's still more amazing things to happen. So don't give up, just keep at it.
Hear, hear.
I think positive, yeah. I mean, Sunderland's, we're disappointed tonight, but given the fact that such a fantastic team have pulled together such a great bid, and the fact that we've been able to bring a lot of the people of Sunderland around with us, I think we've got a really positive future. And whilst, yes, I'm disappointed, and congratulations to Coventry, obviously, because they put a really strong bid forward, but I think Sunderland has learned a lot from this experience, and I think a lot of people are getting behind Sunderland in this experience. Further afield, the region has come together as a total region to try and win this for it. So the reality is, yeah, we've been through a little bit of a knock tonight, but we'll bounce back because it's Sunderland. We're good at that. We don't slide down forever. We get back up and we go back on again. And I'm sure you'll see some fantastic things coming forward in the near future. And I believe that the cultural sector of Sunderland has really gained some momentum from this process. And I'm positive we'll be able to go again at some point in the future, possibly with some younger people taking the lead next time around. And we've just got to make the most of what we've had.
Though the bid has been lost, many developments will continue to benefit Sunderland, like the opening of the Arts Centre in the former fire station and the plans for the future auditorium, which will open in 2019.
There's lots happening, but I think the fire station particularly was like the domino, which, if we could get the domino to stand, then everything else would follow, and that's been hugely successful since its opening. And I think from that we're just going to build on lots of other things, and I think what we're going to get in the city regardless is we get the buildings to enable things to happen, but the events and the activities and all of the sort of the big festival type things we were talking about can happen around those. The team pulled the bid together so well, but that support from the city and the region was absolutely amazing. So proud of what we've done and the feeling of just let's get on with it regardless.
Well, to be quite honest, they've tried, but I don't think we were ever big enough. There's not enough going on. So really, we were very lucky to be shortlisted, I thought.
We don't deserve it, no. A lot of money's been wasted.
Very disappointed. Sunderland really needs a boost.
The question now is whether the team are looking to bid again in the future.
I think they'll make that decision next week, to be honest with you. Maybe it's not even next week. We'll sort of look at the bid, we'll look at what we did really well, we'll look at what we maybe could have done better, and we'll reflect on that, and then we'll decide that at a later date.
This month, Sunderland was named the drink and drug driving capital of the UK. This was according to a survey by comparison site Money Supermarket.
Our Word on Wearside team have been looking into this problem and have discovered that 381 drink and drug driving arrests were made throughout the North East in December last year alone. Our reporter Cameron Petrie has more.
Sunderland has the highest rate of drink/drug drivers in the UK, according to insurance company Money Supermarket.
It was 2 New Year's Eves ago. I was out with my friends, and the taxi fares were expensive that night, so they asked me if I would give them a lift home, and I mistakenly agreed to it, and I got convicted of drink driving.
So, from that happening, what was the process from there for you then? What happened?
I had to go to court, and in court I got my licence taken off me, and I had to do a drink drive awareness course. Now I'm 100% a safer driver and probably a better driver and person for it.
But you know, one conviction is one too many, you know, and I saw recently that over the past decade, drink driving convictions have fallen by 40%, but I think one of the bigger problems is drugs. You know, I think drug use is still fairly common amongst younger people, and of course younger people just passing the test of novice drivers, and it creates a very, very dangerous combination. But particularly the fact that it's so prevalent in Sunderland, you know, is bad news for those of us that live here, those of us that work here, and those of us that are associated with the city and who love it here. You know, it's sad, you know, sad, upsetting, shameful in a way, shameful.
Now, last week we brought you a story about a tweet from a North East mum. She was asking for Sleeping Beauty to be removed from younger children's reading lists.
The mum of two sparked a huge debate, which has now led to her receiving thousands of abusive messages and even personal threats. Understandably, she has since said she won't comment on the issue.
But we've been looking into why this has caused such controversy and whether fairy tales are appropriate for school children. This week I've been out in Sunderland investigating the issue.
When you think back to your favourite childhood stories, you probably have warm, fuzzy memories of talking animals and evil witches.
The world is my backyard.
But if you look a bit closer, you might find some unsettling details. Why are there so many unconscious or imprisoned women? Think Snow White, Rapunzel and Cinderella being just a few. One North East mother has decided to take action by calling for the classic fairy tale Sleeping Beauty to be taken off her son's curriculum. This is all stemmed by the story giving wrong messages about consent to young children. Sarah Hall from Tyneside says the story, where a prince kisses the unconscious Sleeping Beauty to wake her from a curse, features an inappropriate sexual message. Sarah has contacted the school to request the book to be removed from younger classes. The tweet in question since has gone viral, and Sarah has received thousands of abuse messages and says that since she doesn't want to be contacted by media. This is the tweet in question by Sarah Hall that reads, "Tell you what, while we are still seeing narratives like this in school, we are never going to change ingrained attitudes to sexual behaviour. #MeToo, #consent, #MySonIs6. I wanted to begin with finding out the origins of fairy tales. So I met with Dr. Jamie Tarani, who is an anthropologist based at Durham University. His work focuses mainly on the transmission of popular narratives, in particular folk tales.
Fairy tales were never originally suitable for children because children, in the sense that we talk about today, didn't exist in the old times. Children were peripheral participants in the adult world. There were stories that were told to adults and children. You know, children used to you know, work, labour in fields, work in factories, do all that kind of stuff. So this idea of childhood as this pristine state of innocence, that's itself fairly quite a young idea itself. And the fairy tales that we know have largely evolved along with that idea of childhood as some kind of state of innocence. And in the case of Sleeping Beauty, you know, I think that mum is absolutely right, actually. That, you know, maybe Sleeping Beauty is a story that's just had its day. As I mentioned, the vast majority of folktales, you know, these stories aren't sacred texts. They don't stick around forever. Now, as this mum pointed out, part of the issue here is that parents often don't get to make those decisions because schools are deciding, partly schools at least, are deciding which stories children will learn as part of the curriculum. And I think this mum raises actually some very valid concerns about the content of some of these folk tales. Can you still have the story of Sleeping Beauty without that kiss? Yeah, you can probably come up with a way of, you know, what if they were already in love, you know, before she fell asleep, and then it's like not so much a non-consensual kiss, it's two lovers, you know, and he's kissing her, you know, and she's asleep, but, you know, he's not a stranger to her.
Given that Dr. Tarani agreed with Sarah in saying that Sleeping Beauty was inappropriate for children, I decided to speak to some parents to find out if they agreed.
Don't think there's any problems at all with the fairy tales and how they perceive kisses and how the interaction is between a prince or a princess. I don't think it has any negative impact at all.
I think it's just been a case of being one person being, well, a male being some affectionate against the female. It doesn't really mean anything at all. I think it's ridiculous how people can come to the conclusion that there's something wrong in that.
I think that if we're going to strive for equality for boys and girls, we need to move away from this idea that princesses' daughters are an object that can be given away by their father or that can be won by a prince. It's a very outdated message. It's not a very positive message for our children.
I don't find any of the literature in it, any of the storylines, totally inappropriate at all. I think they're all fine, and I would expect kids to learn stuff from them, actually. Learn some different things such as sadness and happiness.
No, I think they're good. It all depends on which ones they are. The Grimm's fairy tales is not good. The other fairy tales are.
So, most of the parents that I spoke to don't think that fairy tales are inappropriate for children. It was interesting to hear that most of them are not fazed by the non-consensual kiss in Sleeping Beauty. So, should the story be removed from the curriculum? To find out what school teachers thought about taking the story off the curriculum, we spoke to school teacher Jonathan Bailey.
I don't think it should be taken off the curriculum. I think, you know, it's first and foremost it's a story developed for young children. It's not meant to be, you know, portraying, like it's been mentioned in the social media, a unconsensual kiss. It's just a fairy tale which so happens to have this in it. It's not a sexualized version of this, which is what this social media nowadays is making out to be. I think at primary school age, they don't see it as an unconsensual kiss. They just see, you know, a kind of a handsome prince or knight in shining armour saving kind of either a damsel in distress or someone who's been, you know, put under a spell by some sort of witch. They just see that as kind of him saving the day. Yes, if you want to take it from a very kind of analytical view, it is an unconsensual kiss. She hasn't said yes to that, but it's not, like I say, in the terms that we're discussing it, it's not done in a sexualised manner. It's done in a manner of, if this kiss goes ahead, I get to save this woman.
We're on the way to interview Charles Ward, who's the owner of Ward Psychology, to find out if there really is a link between childhood behaviour and fairy tales.
It's I think, sexualising their view of children in a way that is not the case. For young children, kisses are just ways of greeting people that they know, and it's a way of learning about appropriate ways of greeting people and so on. For them, there is nothing sexual about a kiss. Therefore, in that consensual, non-consensual sense, I don't think this applies at all. There's not evidence to suggest that fairy stories do affect their behaviour significantly. Sometimes fairy stories have a horrific side to them. We like that bit, we like the adrenaline rush that comes with being frightened. That's why we go on frightening rides as we become teenagers at places like theme parks and so on. The fairy stories, I think, providing they're dealt with appropriately, that children are introduced to them in a friendly, safe environment, are unlikely to have major serious effects on them at all.
So we've just spoke to Charles. It was very interesting to see that he doesn't think that fairy tales can affect behaviour. Grace Mackenzie runs her own business as dressing up as Disney princesses for children's parties. She has also teamed up with her sister to open the Enchantment Cafe down in Sunderland. The whole cafe is fairy tale themed, right down to the products they sell. I wanted to know if she thinks that these fairy tales are inappropriate for children.
The original kind of fairy tales they're quite inappropriate. You've got your Brothers Grimm one, so
the original Cinderella. It's like the stepsisters that cut off the toes and things like that. So them kind of ones that I would say a bit inappropriate for children. I don't really go into them when I do my parties. I kind of go in the more Disney, like happily ever after kind of thing. So I'm quite okay with that one. I've not had anyone think that it's been inappropriate. I think it is a big part of quite a lot of children's childhood, and yeah, I think it just brings happiness, and I think everyone needs that little bit of magic, and at the same time, kind of most fairy tales has that like moral behind the story as well, so it's not just glitter and fun. I think obviously teachers to be a nice person and things like that. So yeah, I think affect them in a good way.
While investigating if fairy tales are appropriate for children, I had discovered that there is no direct psychological link between fairy tales and how children think. However, I do believe that the content in fairy tales and the way they are portrayed could come down to a matter of personal opinion. Regardless of how you perceive fairy tales, they are going to stick around for years to come, forever adapting and creating moments of magic for children around the world.
If you'd like to see the investigation again or read more on the topic, head over to sr-news.com.
The smallest baby in Europe to have a heart transplant may be in the first stage of his body rejecting the heart.
8-week-old Charlie Douthwaite, who was born with half a heart, received the transplant in the Freeman Hospital last week.
His family is showing support and providing updates on the Facebook page A New Heart for Charlie.
Also, Nick Dunn finally returned home to Ashington yesterday after 4 years.
He is one of 6 former soldiers released from prison in India last week. This was after being charged for firearms that were found on his ship.
Today is his first full day back home in the northeast.
Universities in England will be investigated for mis-selling if they were banks, according to a new report from the National Audit Office.
The watchdog says students taking out huge loans to pay for higher education are being failed by universities, with only 1 in 3 saying they receive value for money.
Our reporter Elizabeth went out to speak to the students of Sunderland about what they think.
The National Audit Office have released a report questioning whether university fees are value for money. They say that only 32% of higher education students consider their courses offers value for money. Therefore, we've come to the University of Sunderland to find out whether they think their fees are justified.
I don't think that my university course is value for money at all. I think that £9 is far too expensive. I believe that all education should be free, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody should go.
I think we pay an awful lot and we don't actually get a lot out of it. So for me, I do performing arts, and I think the fact that we haven't even got a proper theatre, we haven't got a proper stage, we never have a budget for any shows that we do, is a bit stupid, really.
I do, however, if you're only in like a certain amount of days a week, like if you're not in many days, there's not really much point, and you can't really see what the money's been spent on. The support's good though, isn't it? Like from like the staff, and the facilities are good, so I'd say it's justified.
I think it's good, but I don't think you get enough for what you pay. Like I think it should be lower the price. Like £9 is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the courses itself are value for money, like, and what you pay for, but like there's also the kind of argument of is it maybe too much? And I think it's always a rise and rise, and then when you go to university, there's a rise of cost in like the cafe and printing paper. So it's like I feel like either way you look at it, you're paying for a course, but then you're paying for basic things that the course should really actually supply.
The report has also revealed that the current system could discourage young people from lower class backgrounds from applying university.
Yeah, 100%, because I think like even though the fees are being paid, well, loan I guess, to live is really expensive, and like even my student loan, like as soon as my student loan comes in, 3/4 of it goes on my rent, so I've not actually got that much to live off, which I think, like, I'm not from a wealthy background, I'm more working class, but like look, people with lower income than me, like I don't know how they do it really. Fee prices should be lower, but again, like I'm not sure that would help. I think more maintenance loan should be given rather than the fees being lower, because I think for that you have to pay that back, but only when you're in a certain amount, whereas to live and for food and stuff you have to pay that now. So I think that needs to be increased rather than the fees being decreased.
Definitely, 100%. Like, because we're relying now on student loan and stuff like that, but then also it's, do we get a job afterwards? It's getting harder to get work nowadays. Especially with this government we're in now, and we're too busy talking about Brexit and stuff like that, when you've got young people struggling for work and people going to university who can't even get a job in the field they studied.
We contacted the relevant bodies to speak to us, but they declined to comment. Elizabeth Casbure, Warden Wearside.
This is the moment the pair of armed robbers carried out a recce of Asda in Newcastle. Police have released the CCTV footage in hope of tracking down the suspects.
The two offenders arrived at the supermarket on High Road on a motorbike before one of them dismounted and threatened a G4S security guard with a suspected firearm. They demanded he handed over the money before they fled on the motorbike in the direction of B&Q at the end of Scotswood Road.
Police are appealing for anyone who knows the identity of the suspects or saw the motorbike in question on Sunday to get in touch with the police.
An annual Christmas camel parade is taking place in South Shields for the 5th year in a row.
The 3 camels and the 3 wise men rode along the route of Ocean Road to South Shields Seafront.
The event, organised by Sunderland City Council, received criticism this year from animal rights campaigners.
Word on Wearside went down to find out more.
It's the 1st of December. People in South Tyneside are celebrating the 5th annual camel parade.
Welcome to the camel parade here at South Shields, where we're getting Christmas going with a bang!
And it's part of our Christmas Wonderland celebration. We turned the Christmas lights on last week, and then this week obviously we have the camel parade with the camels, the Sparks drummers, and the illuminated puppets, and obviously the fantastic firework finale. And it's about bringing people into South Shields to see what South Shields has to offer, but also it's very, very much a community event. The people of South Tyneside really enjoy the camel parade, and we get lots of really great feedback.
We had a great time, seeing the camels, seeing the parade, and the band loved it.
What's your favourite part? Camels. The big drummers. The stilt people. The stilt people. What did you like the best? Everything. No, which was your favourite? You have to say one. Santa Claus. The camels. I like the drummers. We love the camels, didn't we? Yeah.
What's the main aim? It's to bring people together from the, like all the communities in South Tyneside, and just for people to connect and say hi and, you know, celebrate the time of year.
We couldn't have done this yesterday.
We had a great time. We always have a great time in Newcastle.
That's all for today.
Make sure you tune in again next week for more of your latest news.
Good night.